Welcome back to applications of GPS. Today we are going to look at mapping application. I am Professor N. Dinesh Kumar, Head of Electronics and Communication Engineering Department at Vignan Institute of Technology and Science, located near Deshmukhi village. It's very near to Ramoji Film City, located at Hyderabad. So today we are going to look at the second application, that is GPS in mapping. So in the last lecture where we have studied about surveying, so mapping is very similar to what we have seen in surveying. Let's look at mapping. First, let's know what is mapping. The process of representing the featured part of Earth's surface or any astronomical or imaginary place graphically is known as mapping. Maps of specific area are developed by recording or noting the series of position as per the receiver's movements over the area. Making the use of GPS and INS, which is inertial navigation system, together, we can go for roads maps or other form of future maps as easily developed by this mapping. The surveying and mapping community was one of the first to take the advantage of GPS because it's dramatically increased the productivity and resulted in more accurate and reliable data. So why mapping? Because it's going to be giving us the faster way of getting the total data at one single point. So GPS based data collection is much faster than conventional surveying and mapping techniques because it reduces the amount of equipment and the labor required. A single surveyor can now accomplish in one day what once it took an entire team weeks to do. So that's the reason why we go for GPS, and that too for mapping purpose. So mapping. So GPS supports the accurate mapping and modeling of the physical world, from mountains and rivers to streets and buildings to utility lines and other resources. Once I take the complete data, then the measured data or the data which has been recorded is being sent to geographic information system, which is GIS, which stores, manipulates and displays geographical reference data. We will look into the next video what GIS is and how it works. So before getting into the mapping, let us first understand what is georeference. So georeferencing means that the internal coordinate system of a map or aerial photo image can be related to ground system of a geographic coordinates. In other words, georeferencing means to associate something with locations in physical space. So the relevant coordinate transforms are typically stored within the image file, which is generally of extension GeoPDF or GeoTIFF. The most visible effect of georeferencing is that display software can show ground coordinates such as latitude and longitude or universal transverse Mercator, which is UTM coordinates, which is a UTM coordinates is nothing but the coordinates. Instead of measuring the latitude or longitude, it takes into the shape of the earth, which is a perfect ellipsoid. However, it differs from the global latitude and longitude that it divides the earth into 60 zones and the projects each to the plane as a basis for its coordinates. So UTM coordinates is a little bit different from what we look into a traditional way of latitude and longitude coordinates. And using georeferencing, we can also go for measure ground distances and areas. The term is commonly used in the GIS field to describe the process of associating a physical map or a raster image of a map with spatial locations. So georeferencing may be applied to any kind of object or structure that can be related to a geographical location, such as points of interest, roads, places, bridges or buildings. So there is a simple example which shows how a georeferencing is being done. So this is the complete map which is being shown here. This is a complete area which is being taken as an aerial photograph. From this particular photograph, this map is being developed. So this is a georeferencing. So GPS for airborne mapping. So let's look into one or two examples of how mapping is being done. The first example which I have chosen is an airborne mapping. So GPS alone has been successfully used for topographic mapping of a small size areas using either conventional GPS kinematic surveying or GPS real-time kinematic, that is RTK. A user takes the positions of the points on the ground where the topography changes, which can be used at a later time to produce the topographic map of that area. Even in rough areas, GPS can be mounted on an all-terrain vehicles, which is ATVs, to precisely map those areas. However, there exist situations in which the use of GPS alone becomes time-consuming and are cost ineffective. Examples include mapping the large areas, coastal areas, forests, and inaccessible areas. For that particular one, traditional mapping large and inaccessible areas was done using classical airborne photogrammetry. With this method, an aircraft mounted camera is used to capture a sequence of images for the area to be mapped, which after processing construct the map. To be of practical use, the captured images first must be related to a geodetic reference system, which is WGS84, a process known as georeferencing the images. Let's understand geodetic system. So geodetic is a coordinate system and a set of reference points used for locating places on the earth. So WGS, which is a world geodetic system, it's a standard for use in cartography, geodesy, and satellite navigation, including GPS. So in classical airborne photogrammetry, the georeferencing is done indirectly with the help of number of ground control systems with the known geodetic coordinates and their corresponding image coordinates. In recent years, GPS has been used on board the aircraft to provide precise position of aerial camera as well as the precise time of each aerial exposure. So I will show in a figure where the aeroplane is being mounted with the aerial photography or aerial camera. Along with that, it is being connected with the GPS. So while the aeroplane moves over the area, it goes on taking the pictures of this particular area, which is being directly linked to the GIS system. So this is the other example of how a airborne mapping can be done, where a aero triangulation and a LiDAR, which is light detection and ranging, is being used. You can see a white line which is being taken here, which is an exact location where it has to be mapped. So this area has to be mapped. This is a line tracker where the air triangulation LiDAR can be used to completely map this area which is being mapped or which is being marked. So let's look at the airborne mapping, how it is going to give the results. So when it is a smooth surface, you can see that the green line, the green wave which is being mapped, which is being taken as a signal, is being mapped onto this, where we can see that it's very smooth or almost there is no variations. Whereas when there is some hollow space or some type of hole or a water is present, there you can see that it has taken a large amount of wavelength. So then once again on the other side of the smooth area or the land, the green wave, you can see that there is no much variations. So this is how the airborne mapping is going to choose whether the land is smooth, or if there are any depths, or if there are any mountains, which can be measured on using this particular one. So the use of GPS in airborne photogrammetry has significantly reduced the required number of ground control points, but a minimum number of ground points are needed because for assessing the resulting accuracy. It has not, however, eliminated the necessity for aerial triangulation or ground control points completely. The integrated GPS or inertial system provides not only the precise position of imaging sensor but also its orientation, that is attitude. In other words, the direct georeferencing of the captured images can be achieved when using the integrated GPS and INS on board the aircraft. So, the GPS for a geofloor mapping can also be done just like the mapping which is being done over the land. The safe and efficient marine navigation requires accurate information about the water depth and the sea bottoms. The traditional way of obtaining the water depth was done using a single beam echo sounder installed on a survey vessel. Within this method, the single beam echo sounder generates a sounding pulse. Here you can see a single beam which is going to give a single beam. A sound generates which is transmitted to the sea bottom and then reflected back to the echo sounder. The water depth is then computed based on the recorded travel time of the surrounding pulse and the velocity of the sound in the water. So this is the single beam which I am showing, which touches the base of the sea, then reflects back to the receiver, where they are going to calculate the depth based upon the travel time and the velocity of the sound in the water. It should be pointed out that the echo sounder uses a hull mounted device called as the transducer to convert the electrical energy into sound energy and vice versa. So if I go for a single beam for mapping the sea floor, the line spacing is selected to provide the best coverage of the area, but the major drawback is, however, that it's a time consuming and does not provide the complete coverage of the sea floor, which is being taken into account. For this purpose, we go for mapping of sea floor using multi-beam. When I say multi-beam, in recent years the sea floor mapping has evolved that combines the multi-beam echo sounders, GPS and INS. So a multi-beam echo sounders employ multiple sounding waves propagating at varying angles, which allow whole swaths of acoustic information to be collected on both sides of the track lines. So unlike the single beam echo sounder, this multi-beam technology offers complete coverage of the sea floor with high resolution, provided that the track lines are optimally designed. GPS waypoint navigation can be employed in the field to ensure that the vessel follows the designed track lines. So here you can see this is the track line which is being shown with a dotted line. Then with a single beam, only this particular area can be mapped, but the area which is being left out cannot be mapped perfectly. With a multi-beam, the complete area, you can see there is a large area that is being mapped with a multi-beam, so it's easy to map also. So these are the references which I have taken. The first one was the textbook Introduction to GPS by Ahmad E.I. Rabbani, and the others are the enthusiastic researchers who have been working on this particular area. So thanks for all those references, for a good amount of information that is being given by these authors. Thank you. If you have any doubts, you can let me know. You can contact me at dinuha@yahoo.co.in. Thank you.